For me, I actually don't have any simple words of wisdom today, because I think that we each come with our own set of awarenesses. I picked this image, we're a blank slate, right? We are a blank slate. We just show up sort of, open, and then all of a sudden stuff starts happening, which is the work of Don Miguel Ruiz, where we start taking on the ideas of other people and thought systems and structures and institutions and all that stuff. So for me, this idea of starting out as this blank slate is kind of really valuable. And at the same time, we are in this human condition where we get to be sort of bombarded by stuff, if you know what I mean. So today I'm going to talk about this idea of verifying teachings for yourself, because that's what life's about. It's about learning lessons. It's about learning what we need to know so that we can experience and demonstrate our spiritual mastery. Our spiritual mastery. And really the deepest spiritual mastery that any one of us can live or be in the world is a recognition of our own divinity and our recognition of our oneness with all that is. Really, that's what it's about. This energy, this who am I, why am I here, what's greater than I am, those fundamental questions we ask ourselves. And then all of these religious traditions, like Don Miguel Ruiz says, they come into play to try to explain in one way or another answers to these fundamental questions that all of us have as human beings. You see, we're meaning-making machines. That's what we try to do. We try to make life, figure it out, make it work for ourselves. And so religions have come along to tell us how to do it and who we are and who that greater being is. Come along these systems, you see. But for me, there's a huge difference between religion and religious traditions and what we're going to talk about today, which is this innate wisdom that each and every one of us have. Now, I'm not in any way denigrating religious traditions. Don't hear me say that. Religious traditions are hugely important because they support an awful lot of people in the world. And they also, look around, they also are causing some pretty big problems. So it's about approaching these things in an appropriate way. So then I asked myself, well, in the past, we call these things wisdom traditions at the core, because they've all got the same ideas. They're all basically, they've got that thread that Glenda talked about, this thread of the golden rule and kindness and all this stuff. But the thing is, if we're not going to look to religion to tell us who we are and how to live our lives, then what? If we're not going to rely on that, then what do? And that's what I'm going to talk about. We must rely on our own inner authority, on ourselves, on our own embodied experience in the world. And we can live an informed life. We can get all kinds of knowledge and allow it to, like Glenda said, to percolate, to touch our heart, and to live from that. But there is no substitute for relying on our inner knower. That part of us that has its own authority, that has its own discernment, that knows the truth of our own being. That wisdom at the very core of who we really are. Now, that wisdom happens to show up very commonly through many, many spiritual and religious traditions. The truth is the truth. Is the truth is the truth. And we have this built-in guidance system that helps us discover that for ourselves. It's this felt sense of our connection with all that is, this connection with this inner authority, and that allows us to actually know that we know beyond any thought system, beyond any teaching, beyond any religion, beyond anything our parents taught us, beyond anything we've learned in our institutions. Within each and every one of us, there is this inner knower that knows that we know. Are we always in touch with that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's what spiritual seeking is all about. We're trying to find the pointers to that, you see. But for me, the direct experience of life, whatever that looks like, is where this inner knower gets fired up. When I embody what I know, this is where my wisdom comes from. Because life's always giving us feedback in the moment, no matter what. And when life is giving you feedback, and you've got that felt sense of your own wisdom, your own inner knower, things shift. I was thinking while Glenda was talking, we have to be willing to start fresh every time with this blank slate, every time we encounter anything in our experience. I was thinking about in my family, of course, you know my family's always full of some sort of crazy drama, but in my family right now, we're experiencing a divorce. My daughter's getting divorced, and it's not a pretty sight, and it involves some domestic violence, some monitored visitations for the father with the child, all kinds of things. And yesterday, I am the supervised drop-off person for my granddaughter's visitation with her father. And when I've got a lot of knowing about the father, you know. I've got some ideas about what I'm thinking about this situation. I've got some preconceived ideas based on experience, based on, you know, what I think I know. But I want to tell you something. Yesterday, life gave me some feedback that awakened my wisdom, because when I dropped my granddaughter off for that visitation, I was stunned, absolutely stunned. Now, do some of my opinions change? Probably not. But I'll tell you what, in that moment of embodied experience with that individual, I awakened deep compassion. I saw the suffering in this other individual. I all of a sudden saw him in a new way. The wisdom within me, that inner knower, all of a sudden there was a tiny gap where I'm going, I get it. I see your divinity. I see your pain. Beyond all this other surface stuff that's happened, I get it. That's what I'm talking about. We allow our inner knower to wake up in the moment, fresh, deep eyes, right then, on the spot. Because life is always giving us feedback in the moment, you see. We got to live it in that moment. What gets in the way? Well, just exactly what I said. We've got this lens that we filter everything through. We think we know, right? I'll tell you what, I think I know a lot of stuff. And then it doesn't take a lot for me to go, oh. I love, in one of our classes, actually two of our classes, the same individual, Mick. I don't see him this morning. He's probably working at Lowe's. That's what he does. But he shared an idea. He's a 12-stepper, and he shared an idea that I took in. I took in his wisdom into my immediate embodied experience. And he says he always approaches life with, well, you may be right. Well, you may be right. I like that. I like that idea. Cultivate a new way to see things when my inner knower gets fired up. You know what? You might be divine. You could be divine. That's what I teach. That's what I believe. And oh yeah, you too. You too, you guy. You too. So, like Linda, I spend an awful lot of time reading because that's our work. Our work is to try to inform ourselves so that we can share from an intelligent place with you. And so I also do a lot of reading. And so today I want to share with you, because this idea of you might be right. Now, Ken Wilber is very heavy reading, if you are familiar with his work. He's very heavy reading. But I like what he says in this book, the simple feeling of being. And really that's what we're talking about. Wisdom's all about that simple feeling of being present. He says, I just have one major rule. Everybody's right. More specifically, everybody has some important pieces of the truth. And all of those pieces need to be honored, cherished, and included in a more gracious, spacious, and compassionate embrace. That's what I experienced with my soon-to-be not son-in-law. That's what the truth of his being was there, you see. And I got to see that. So we've got to be open to the wisdom that we see between the lines. We see the wisdom between the lines in that gap where God is. And so today, I rarely do this, but today I am going to read to you, because as I was thinking about this talk, I was thinking, I don't have a lot to say. Simple wisdom is simple wisdom. What can I tell you? And so I decided that I would share some very important, very lofty spiritual ideas with you, some very important pieces of truth. David, can you go to the next slide?
Oh, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Well, what an invitation. Did you ever think about that? Row, row, row your boat, life is but a dream, gently down the stream. You know, what an invitation to spiritual walk in the world. What an invitation. So, today I am going to read you the poem by Robert Fulghum, Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And I want you to listen to this, because this is the same information that we would hear in the Hindu tradition, in the Islamic tradition, in the Christian tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, in Zoroastrianism, in all the traditions. This is it. Most of what I really need to know about how to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain, but there in the sandbox at kindergarten, I found the wisdom. These are the things I learned. Share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. And by the way, clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands before you eat. And warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day. Some. Take a nap every afternoon. When you go out into the world, watch for traffic. Hold hands and stick together. Be aware of wonder. Remember the little seed in the plastic cup? The roots go down and the plant goes up. And nobody really knows how or why. But we're all like that. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice and even the little seed in the plastic cup, they all die. So do we. And then remember the book about Dick and Jane and the first word you learned? The biggest words of all? Stop, look, and listen. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. So you see, this simple wisdom is just a common sense approach to experiencing our life. It's the starting point. Common sense. I love what Rami Shapiro says. We take away the nonsense and we keep the common sense. Take away the nonsense and keep the common sense. Like he says, get rid of the stupid stuff. Get rid of the stories that are holding us back. Get rid of all of that. Let go of the ideas and the preconceptions that are holding us back from knowing our own radiance, our own beauty, our own divinity, our own connection with oneness of all that is, so that when we encounter the one that we have all these ideas about, we can actually feel compassionate, feel the sorrow, feel the suffering, feel the humanity in that moment, see the divinity. There's head wisdom, it's all about logic. There's heart wisdom, it's all about loving and being kind and being generous and being patient. There's this body wisdom that we get to bring forth. It's all about this felt sense, this knowing that we know, this inner knower. It's all about that. That's what simple wisdom is. So just remember, this is your invitation. Every single one of us, every single one of you has this inner authority that knows that it knows. You have this built-in guidance system. And every moment of your life, there is an opportunity for life to give you feedback that might just open that gap. Let go of all that stupid stuff. Let go of all those blocks, those perceptions and all that stuff that keep you from allowing your wisdom to shine forth. And remember, everything you need to know is within you. Just remember, stop, look, and listen. Thanks for listening.